these, public officials are not indicted, what can we do as a community to bring about real change? Not throwing trash cans in windows or whatever the case may be, not having that reactionary, that one time, one hit or quitter reaction. What can we do that can bring about real change when it comes to these indictments? Or is there even anything that we can do? Those are my questions.
Yeah. And you always, you always fill me up with, is there anything we really can do? There's an old Gil Scott-Heron song that said, must be something we can do. Well, I'm going to tell you, there are some things that we can do. Let's start with the temptations of the street. Every one of us can look back at the streets. I don't care if you're 2 years old or if you're 200 years old. You can look back in the streets and see what the temptations of the street has brought to the street. So those of us who have walked those streets, lived that life, we have the opportunity now to be able to say, look where it got JoJo. Look where it got James. Look where it got Hakeem. This is where you're going. I mean, and even if it gets you a pair of $200 Jordans for 1 week, the potential is $200 Jordans are going to get somebody to stick you up for some $200 Jordans. Now you created another temptation. So therefore, we have to understand that we hold the key to the next generation understanding because we have the history. So we have to begin to educate on the history. And not some false history, not this false history that says that we can get along with this culture or that this culture really stands for us. We have to embed in all of our children the idea that this culture believes that a black man has no right, that a white man is bound to respect, and that we have to respect those things that we bring to the community. If you go back and you look at the things that have been successful in the black community, like for example, like hip hop, where did it come from? It came from out of nowhere. It came from nothing to something. How did that happen? It was, if you remember, the Reagan administration actually took music out of the school system. Now, my argument is that he took it out of the school system because it was music and the entertainment industry that was funding, along with liberal whites, the civil rights and the Black Power movement. So as a way of shutting them down, he took music out of the schools and the kids started scratching on turntables and beating on garbage cans and created a whole two new genres, go-go and hip-hop. So out of nothing, something. We have to understand the power, the innate power that we have to create something out of nothing. And therefore, we have to begin to learn our history. We have to begin to learn the history of why we have this genius embedded in us, which is fighting against the indoctrination that is being brought on us. We have to get the inherent genius in us to outweigh the indoctrination. Right now, the indoctrination is winning. And it's winning because most of our leadership is soft on America. We are in love with America. We would much rather be pseudo-white Americans than to be ancient Africans. I'm telling you the truth. We'd much rather understand George Washington than we would rather understand Imhotep. This is who we are. This is the nature of it. And it's because we follow a leadership that says, if we just stay the course, keep our eye on the prize, all these other, go out and vote for Hillary and all that kind of foolishness, if we just stay this course, we're going to win. We're not going to win in that. We have got to reshape the narrative. Look at the times where we were winning. Marcus Garvey changed the narrative. Elijah Muhammad changed the narrative. The Civil Rights Movement changed the narrative. The Black Panthers changed the narrative. They literally had to destroy these people in order to keep black people, people of color, and then the world, meaning white people too, because now they were beginning to understand the awesome power of people who are willing to stand for justice. So they began to come along too with the Civil Rights Movement, with the anti-war movement. We have to begin to assert, we have to take the step forward to say, okay, all you people on this left thing, all this political thing, take a step to the left. We now control this and begin to assert a different dynamic on economics, on history, on law, etc. That's the first thing. That's the way you get rid of the temptations of the street. And you start by changing the values. Martin Luther King said, we are in need of a radical revolution of values. So my first value word today is respect. Teach your kids respect. If he's cursing at me in the library, I only assume that he's cursing at you at home. Somebody has to stop him from cursing. At least help him understand that the cursing and the fighting and the leaving your books and not paying for your books at school, etc., is a reflection on how you feel about you. The lack of respect that you have for yourself. Whenever somebody kills another kid, it's not a reflection of how he feels about that person. It's a reflection of how he feels about the other person. It's a reflection of how he feels about himself. It's what they commonly refer to black on black crime, but every time you look in the mirror, you're seeing black. You just hate it. Mm-hmm. Go for it.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I don't know if people have been listening, but your last show, you mentioned that there was schools built 100 feet apart from each other, and it was just pretty much designed to keep our people down. And when I say this to say, there are other things that are, it's just designed for us to fail. And I feel like we're not woke as a community. And when we know that they have these institutions in place for us to design for us to fail, what is your advice on trying to maneuver around, to manipulate your life in a way that you don't get caught up in jam? Because I'm quite sure that you've had people that you've represented in the past that have demonstrated that they can be leaders, that they are skill set savvy, but somewhere along the way they got trapped into the wrong life and ended them up in a different situation. So can you shed some light on maybe a story about somebody that got caught into a different type of life, but they could have led another different life? Because I feel like that criminals are very talented people, but they utilize their skills in a wrong way. And somehow they get caught up into this life, and it pummels the community. And I feel like as a community we need to uplift one another, and also it is a lot of self-hate. So, what kind of advice can you give? Because, I mean, if anything, we are failing as a community because we continue to fall into the cracks. Diet.
Well, let me say
McDonald's, we just continue to fall into the trap.
Understood. I agree with you 100%. We continue to fall in the trap. And therein lies the problem. I want you to imagine. You listened to the program from last week, and I thank you for listening, because again, these programs are supposed to build on each other so that you understand the criminal justice system. But let me give you an example from last week, and that is you got a 5-year-old that you send to your public school, and the first thing that they learn in that public school is the Pledge of Allegiance. What are they learning differently from what your middle class, upper class, white counterpart is learning? You send your kid to a ghetto, they send their kids to a suburb. What are they learning about their own value system? And that value system is what it is that they are running from at that particular point. That's what's becoming embedded in them. That concept that you said of self-hate, that's what's controlling them right now. And we are fighting uphill to try to get that, to change that dynamic, to try to change how it is that they see themselves. All right, and that's really where it lies. For all of us, we are all educators. For all of us, we are all parents. For all of us, we are all lovers. For all of us, we are all friends. And we have to insert that back into the community. When you deal with the Nation of Islam, they call you brother. I'm not a member of the nation, but they call me brother. I call them brother, and you feel a sense of brotherhood. When you were dealing with Garvey, they called you brother. When they were dealing with the civil rights movement, it was called brother, sister. And you felt like it was your brother and your sister. And we have to get back to that kind of mentality, because we have to control our narrative. We have to write our own stories. We have to not depend on other people to support us. We have to support ourselves. We have to believe in that we can create the way we have always created, something out of nothing. And when we do that, we're gonna be something to watch. We got the genius. We just don't have the heart. We're too busy following people who want to be pseudo white people. And as long as we follow that leadership, we're going to be in the same rut. Every 20 years, we're going to be coming up with a black person who we think, we didn't listen to Malcolm when he said now they think they can send a black man into our community and get us to vote for him. Those days are long gone. We have to get to those days where we say those days are long gone. We are going to do this collectively. We're not going to wait for a Messiah. We're not going to wait for the one person. We have to understand what it is to work collectively and work together. As it relates to the indictments, all right? And then when the indictment, you have to have back to the law. An indictment is the charging document now. That gets you to the point to where you come into court. Don't be afraid of it. It just tells you what your charges are. But I'll tell you a funny story. I remember being on the World Trade Center case, Hassan Abdel and Bahir Kamil. And one of the guys looked at the indictment and he says, the United States of America versus so-and-so. And the kid said, oh my God, the whole country is against us. And the first thing I thought to myself, you don't need to be a criminal. If this is what you got from that the whole, I mean, it shows you the mentality, right? That here, you know, if you, oh man, it's unbelievable where we are as it relates to education. So here's our goal in the Raw Law Project, is to educate. It is to educate. It is to break down the barriers that have existed in our community, because knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you're going to be. And the more, our hashtag at the bottom of this here, every flyer that we send out, is the only victims left are the ones who don't know. We are going to make sure that you know. So now you know what it is to be indicted. Now you know how you can indict a ham sandwich. And don't fall for that. They can't indict you in the federal courts anymore simply because it's coming from a black person. Oh, the other prosecutor, attorney general, was a Loretta Lynch. Don't fall for that anymore. You have to stand against that. And whenever they do that, you have to recognize that the people who are standing against you are standing against your community, just like the drug dealer is standing against your community. The drug dealer is against your community. I don't care how many sneakers and how many barbershops they open up. If they're selling drugs in your community, they are against your community because they are demanding that the police come in and wreck your community, demanding that they see their dads thrown on the ground so that the kid can grow up with an inferior sense of his father or his mother. Demand that they can kick your door in, which means that you have no privacy, and I'm a kid and I'm seeing all this and I'm growing up thinking that the police are all powerful, like they're God. This is what they are doing. This is what the criminal element does in your community. They don't see it because it's about them. We have to wake them up by being able to show them that it's not about you, it's about us. We have to work together. So now you got charged. You finally got charged and you say to yourself, you know what, if you haven't already, you probably went to the public defender's office and now you have a lawyer. At least if he's a public defender, you don't really think you got a lawyer. You think you got a play lawyer. You think you got something called a public pretender. You got somebody who's a fake lawyer, what you call them on the block. Well, let me give you a couple of myths. One myth is this, that a public defender is less than a private lawyer. You think because you paid the lawyer some money, 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, that he's better than having a public defender. Some of the best work you'll ever see will come from the public defender's office. But then again, some of the worst. Here's what you're looking for when you go look for a lawyer. The first thing you want to look for is someone who has criminal trial experience. I gave you the hypothetical example of Mike Lyson. All right, some boxer out of India who got charged in Indiana, who had a tax lawyer instead of a criminal lawyer and got smoked. Criminal trial work takes heart. Everybody can't do this. It's probably the quickest paycheck in the planet, which means everybody wants to jump in it when they want to make a buck. But everybody can't do this. Everybody can't stare down 12 people and say, my guy is innocent, and then go out and set out to prove it, even though the Constitution, even though the rules say you don't have to prove anything. In your mind as a defense attorney, when you're representing someone against the perception, you are saying to yourself, I have to wreck this building. I have to take it over. I have to dominate it if you really care about this kid. And there are ways to dominate it without kicking the table over. But you need to see this lawyer work. So if you have a public defender, one thing you know about the public defender is he's going to be in the same court every day, almost every day, probably be on trial every 2 weeks. So you get a chance, if you're not locked up, to go see him. And if you are locked up, your people can go see him or her and say, hey, she's a bum. He's a bum. And then you can make whatever complaints you want to make, because once you can't afford a lawyer and they assign one to you, you're stuck with that joker. But then at least you know, I got to do my research. I got to get on this cat. I got to get on this lawyer. I got to know what search and seizure means. I got to know what stop frisk means. I got to know what a confession is. I got to know where my statements are. I got to know what a complaint means. Because now you're armed. Now you're ready to go. Because even if he's a bum, it doesn't mean that you have to be a bum. But what about that private lawyer? You just paid him that money. And you gave him 10 grand and he charged you 25. Now he could do 10 grand worth of work in one day, truth be told. He can come in and say to the prosecutor, look, I got JoJo on the homicide. You know, so-and-so, he's my client. What's the deal? What you offering him? And they say, you know, he's facing 30 to life. He already got a prior, but proof's a little bit specious. We offer him 15, 85%. He coming back to you the next day with your 10 grand and saying, man, I saw the discovery. They got you, JoJo. Man, but you know what? They offering you 30. I think I can get them down to like 15, maybe even 13 or 12. That would be a great deal for you. And you like, you can get me down to 15? And you call yourself a hustler on the block. You ain't seen hustling until you've been in a courtroom and seen some lawyers, cats who are trained to hustle, do their thing. Which means that, because really you didn't pay him that 25 grand, so he's like, I'm going to give you 10 grand worth of work. Where's the plea at? Where the plea forms? Get these plea forms for the prosecutor to change their mind. And you running to change, you running to get it, blah, 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 and you signing on the dotted line. But then again, you got that criminal mentality, though. You got the good one who you really did see work. And you know he has a reputation for doing high quality work because you watched him. But you got that criminal mentality. I'll tell you a story. I got a client, right? Murder for hire. They dropped it out of the death penalties because they figured they'd get a better jury on if they didn't have the death penalty in it. Murder for hire, 4 eyewitnesses. The guy's 6'4", 240 pounds. How could you miss an identification like that? We go to trial, not guilty on everything. 6 months later, I get an ethics complaint from the ethics committee saying I didn't represent this guy properly. He got acquitted on a murder for hire with 4 eyewitnesses to the shooting. A description of 6'4", 240 pound, bald-headed black man. How could you know what he was? 6'4", 240 pound, bald-headed black man. But he was acquitted on everything. I get an ethics complaint in his name. They made me go through 2 years of submitting documents and papers and motions and things that I had submitted to the court on the argument that this guy said I never visited him at the jail. I never filed any motions on his behalf. I wouldn't talk to him about the case, etc. Only to find out that they find him in another state and he says, oh, I filed that motion, that ethics complaint like 3 weeks before trial so I'd have an appeal issue in case I lost that trial. Criminal minded. He didn't give a darn about me. He didn't care about me at all. How about that? He didn't care about my reputation being on the line. He didn't care about the facts of the case. He didn't care about how hard I was busting my behind trying to keep him out of trouble. All he cared about was he had to set something up, and he set me up should he lose that trial. That's the mentality. This is what we go through as defense attorneys. See, so we're trying to size you up as to whether or not we want to represent you as well. So when you're trying to pick a lawyer, go watch the lawyer work. Go watch and see whether or not he's committed to the process, committed to the work that's supposed to be done. Whether he'll be committed to you, whether he treats people with respect when he's talking to them, or whether he's just in it for the money, or she's just in it for the money. Go see, talk to them, even when they don't want to talk. You'll get the nature of their character. You'll get the nature as to whether or not they're scared. Whether or not they're shaking in their boots when they meet you. I had a lawyer one time in the middle of a racketeering murder trial. My client walked, his client went down. Got 45 years in prison. On the way home, he and I are walking to the parking lot. And he says to me, because I knew the kid grew up in my neighborhood. He says to me, Muhammad, can you do me a favor? I was like, yeah, what's that? Can you tell him I really tried my best? I was like, what are you saying? No, I really tried my best. Please, just please let him know that. I was like, are you scared of this dude? He was scared the entire trial. And frankly, when I looked back on it after that comment, things that I thought might have been strategy turned out to be just afraid, are you scared of this dude? To move forward. He was scared. Then there's the other myth. A white lawyer is better than a black lawyer. A Jew is the best lawyer to have. Oh gosh, I know you all know that. I mean, how can you go to court without having a Jew lawyer? All lawyers are part of a Masonic order, and so therefore, if they get up there and they do some signs and stand on the square, then you're going to walk. Yeah, walk your behind right to prison. That's where you're going to walk. Because think about it. If a black man has no right that a white man is bound to respect, and your lawyer, and you black, and your lawyer is white, what does that mean? That means that lawyer probably thinks that you have no right that he has to respect. Go watch him work. See if he knows what he's doing. See if he has the respect that you need in order for you to be represented. Because your life is on the line. And this is war. This isn't no fun and games. For some of us, it's fun and games. We love it. Those of us who eat it, I'm telling you, it's like my favorite expression. It's like cake to a fat kid. We love the idea of standing in front of a jury. We love that challenge. But we understand that there's a community out there, like the second question I asked, a community out there with self-hate in their heart. So we have to bring a different perception to that. We have to educate while we try. We have to fight and lose some battles in order to win the ultimate war. But you'll see that if you watch some of them work, who know what they're doing. You'll see that they really respect the profession. They really respect themselves. Because that's, at the end of the day, what it's all about. Or do they just respect the dollar? I had a trial once. My man was charged with possession of a weapon. He had a co-defendant. Both of them were charged with possession of the same weapon. And he got this really high name brand white lawyer. Oh man, his co-defendant got this real high name brand white lawyer. And I was kind of new to the profession, but I had met a dude out in, a dude who was hustling. And he turned me over to this boy. He's like, look, help my man out if you can. And I'm doing my best. I mean, I'm wearing this case out. And the co-defendant is looking at his lawyer like, why are you not wearing this case out too? Like, this dude is killing it. But he only mentioned it his boy. When you going to mention? He's like, no, don't worry about it. Everything he say is helping us. And so he says, finally, they're doing it and trying the case, etc. And the case goes to the jury, and my guy walks on everything. Now, it's just so that you know, all my guys don't walk. I'm just giving you some stories right now. All my guys don't walk. But the other kid, they read out guilties on the same gun, and they both in almost the same position. And he jumps up and he says, MF, I thought you said... And he turns off, he holds him, pow, punches the lawyer right in the face. You talk about, look, to show you how bad it was. Again, he was a name brand lawyer, high reputation kind of cat. The guards stood there and watched him beat him up for about 2 minutes before they even jumped in. They stood there and watched him beat up because the guards didn't like him either. And you'll watch now when you go to court, you'll watch the lawyer as he talks to the guards, to the court officers, the respect that they show him. You'll watch him as he talks to the judge and the respect that they show him. You'll watch him as he talks to the court clerks and the respect that they show him, because of the respect that he's showing them and the respect that he's showing the profession. And then there you'll know that you got the right lawyer. And then you'll watch him because he's watching you. Those of us who have been around the block know when we get in hustle. We know a joker when we see one. We know a cat who's just a outright joke, who doesn't care about anything. All we do, just I'm paying you, do what I tell you to do kind of thing. And those are the quickest ones that you give your money back to. Here, bro, you don't run me. I run this. I'm the lawyer. Because 9 times out of 10, when you open your mouth as a defendant, thinking that you control the lawyer, all you're doing is controlling the car that's driving you into a ditch. That lawyer will ditch you in a heartbeat, send you off to prison and say bye. Never want to see you again. Especially if he thinks that all you care about is jerking him. If he thinks that it's him versus you, it's you. So when you're looking for a lawyer, again, go see him work. Gauge their temperament. Gauge their respect for the profession and for what has to be done. You're not going to receive justice in the criminal justice system, but you are going to find someone who's willing to fight for whatever semblance of justice on whatever level there is for you, because that's what you're going to want and that's what you're going to need. There are many of them out there, but there are so many of them out there who are just like so, oh man, They don't understand you. They could be black. I know some black boys who don't understand black kids. Don't understand what it is to be black. Don't understand what it is to be hungry. And I'm talking about both hungry, I need some food, and hungry, I need to be seen, I need to be respected. Don't understand why their kids can't write a check. Their client can't write a check. Why, when you give him the discovery, he didn't read it because he can't read. And they hold that against you as the lawyer. But you'll know that if you spend time on your case, looking into the lawyer, looking into what the lawyer is really about. And don't just take your boy's word for it that he's a good lawyer. It's not about that. Oh yeah, he looked out for me. He got me off. You don't know what helped him get off. You don't know the facts of his case that would allow him to get off. Go watch him work. Send your people to watch him work. Spend your money wisely or spend your time wisely if you have a public defender. Demand that they do the work, and when they aren't able to do the work or they don't understand what it is to be black in the community, or arrested by a cop, or charged with rape by a white girl, or charged with rape by his ex-girlfriend, go watch him work and you'll see. One of my favorite guys on the entire planet was a coach at a local community college. He was accused of sexual assault on his wife. He said all he really did was grab her butt during the middle of an argument, but she, being mad, went down and filed a complaint against him. He got locked up on the complaint, eventually got indicted. No, on the complaint, he decided to speak to the public defender. The public defender said, oh, it's a light thing. We'll just plead guilty, that put you on probation, and you know, it's nothing. You have probation for a year, you'll be off, you'll be gone. He says, cool. He's about 22 years old at the time. He takes the plea, oh yeah, they drop it from sexual assault down to unlawful touching. So he says, I touched my wife on the butt. Guilty, judge. Boom. Guilty. 10 years later, he's a coach at a Division II school, potentially a national champion school. And the coach, who was the head coach, he's the assistant coach, decides he's going to retire, which means now the job is his. He's about ready to build his old program. And they run a background check on him. And they find this felony conviction on him. A felony conviction of moral turpitude, which means you can't hold a public job with that. His coaching career is done because some public defender convinced him to take a plea on something without really looking into it, the fact that it was his wife. And if he had just given it another 3 months, or another 6 months, or if he had the money to pay a lawyer, and I wasn't going to say buy a lawyer, if he had the money to just pay a lawyer to go take a real look at his case and maybe even go talk to his wife, like, look, you know, this could carry over, this could mean something. It would have been done. It would have been long gone. It would have been off his record and he'd be coaching right now. But he had to start all over.